I can't believe I let you idiots talk me into this, Alex said, shaking her head. I look like a doofus. You're the only one of us who could fit into Rhett's clothes. Clay leaned over the back of the dune buggy seat to give his wife a nudge with his shoulder. Not obvious enough to ruin the illusion that he was a prisoner, but hopefully reassuring for her. Besides, Skater Girl looks pretty cute on you. This isn't going to fool anybody. 1, Rhett didn't have to roll up his pants to keep from tripping over them, and 2, she pointed to her face. Clearly not a guy. Dressed head to toe in the late Mad Lad Incants designer skatewear, with her blonde hair shoved up under one of those dumb flat-billed caps, she looked less like an evil magic trafficker and more like a punk pop star glamping through the Wasteland. That is kind of hard to miss up close, Clay admitted. That's okay, though. Once we're in close, it's already too late for them. In Joe's mastermind scenario, she and Joe were the Trojan horse, dressed up like Rhett and Lines, and Clay and Griff were the Greeks. One full-blooded NPC and one rogue incant, trussed up and ready for the handover like hogs being prepared for slaughter. Of course, the Greeks hadn't had to worry if the Trojans already knew the horse was a fake. There was every chance Cassidy had found out his skater buddy was dead and alerted the people they were meeting today that this whole thing was a setup. Hell, Lines had been dead long enough that word may have already trickled back through the Triple S and whatever other contractors the government had in the IZ. There was just no way of knowing. "Back up, you little sailor!" Joe yelled in the horrendous Australian accent he'd been talking in all morning, getting in the right headspace for the gearhead disguise he'd claimed. "Crikey, there's no bloody reason to fear. We're as safe as Vegemite on a cracker, mate." From the child's 5-point harness beside the mech-suited redneck, Chunk chittered in agreement. Alex massaged her temples. "Joe, you have to stop. If you go in yelling at the top of your lungs, we're not even going to get close." "Are you kidding me? This is flawless bloody Aussie," Joe protested, not lowering his voice at all. "They yell all the time down under. It's a land of wonder where men chunder." "It's starting to grate, lad," Griff growled, lifting his cuffed hands to scratch his stubbly jaw. "Can it?" The uncharacteristic bark in the old weed's voice got through to even Joe. Griff had been working with a short fuse lately, deep lines of determination and anger never quite leaving his leathery face. But that was understandable. If Alex had disappeared without a single hint as to what had happened to her, Clay would have destroyed the world twice over by now. They topped a low, scrubby hill, and Camp Liberty appeared in the distance. The walls, cobbled together out of salvaged corrugated steel from the nearby ruins of Bakersfield, glinted in the dying afternoon light. Stacks of rusty steel containers rose up behind it. The cans, the closest thing the settlement had to an apartment complex. Clay could see the one they'd lived in for a month, a dented blue metal box whose top was just visible above the wall. It was hard to believe that had been just a few short months ago. Things had been a lot simpler back then, but he wouldn't go back for $1 million. Simpler didn't always mean easier, especially not when you were spending all your time scared your wife was going to die from cancer before you found her a dungeon lord to kill. Griff had helped them out back then. Now was their chance to return the favor and help the old weed. Before they'd shown up, his daughter Ella had disappeared, last seen with Cassidy Morgan, the Hexblade Incant. Come to find out, the Malibu Incants had been enslaving an entire settlement to farm magical items for them to sell across the wall to the government. And not just items, but people. NPCs and humanoid creatures they'd captured from across the IZ, none of whom were ever seen again. What the federal government wanted with the missing Wasteland inhabitants, Clay didn't know, but he doubted it was on the up and up. Trading in sentient life rarely was. Once they had taken down the Malibu operation and found the wealth of information on Rhett Cameron's phone, it had been a short jump to setting up this fake buy. Doing so was an enormous gamble, but it was also the only lead they had. If they were going to find Ella, this was the only game in town. As Joe steered the dune buggy around an abandoned sedan, broken down, rusted out, and half sunk into the desert sand, Clay caught sight of a black Jeep parked on the east side of the camp. He nodded at it. "There's our guys." "A black, unmarked vehicle?" Alex scoffed. "Cliché." Joe whistled. "They must have a hell of a topcoat to keep that thing's paint so shiny." His love for all things metal thankfully made him forget about speaking Australian. "That or she's brand new right off the line. Oh, or maybe they got an arcane barrier on it, to protect it from dust and sandstorms. Check it with the monocle of true seeing, bro." "Not right now."